Alicia Keys reveals shocking secrets about P. Diddy's hidden empire, power, control, and betrayal behind the glitz of the music industry. The courtroom fell into a hush as Alicia Keys, the Grammy-winning artist and longtime industry insider, took the stand. All eyes fixed on her as she prepared to reveal truths that had been hidden behind the glitz and glamour of the music world for years. She wasn't just any witness. Alicia had been at the heart of the entertainment scene, close to some of the most powerful figures, including P. Diddy himself. What Alicia was about to share would shock the courtroom and send ripples through the industry. She spoke of secret, invitation-only parties hosted by P. Diddy, events that were far more than the high-profile celebrations the public saw. Behind the velvet ropes, away from flashing cameras and fanfare, these gatherings were hubs of influence where power was brokered, alliances forged, and sometimes intimidation was wielded as a tool. The artist's voice was steady but heavy with the weight of what she had witnessed. She described moments where careers were made or broken, based not on talent or merit, but on who aligned themselves with the right people behind closed doors. Alicia revealed that these exclusive parties were stages for covert negotiations, manipulation, and ruthless strategies to maintain control over the industry's most valuable assets, the artists themselves. As she painted the picture, the courtroom was gripped by the stark contrast between the vibrant public personas of the celebrities involved and the darker realities lurking beneath. Her testimony hinted at a world where ambition mixed with danger, where even the brightest stars could find themselves trapped in webs of influence that were hard to escape. The weight of Alicia's revelations settled over the room like a thick fog, leaving spectators and legal professionals alike to grapple with questions they had never dared ask. How deep did this shadowy network go? What price had been paid for the fame and fortune? And most importantly, how would the music world reckon with these truths now laid bare? Tonight, we begin to uncover the story behind the headlines, a story of power, loyalty, and the hidden costs of celebrity. Stay with us as Alicia Keys takes us inside the secret world of P. Diddy's empire. Alicia Keys has always been more than just a singer and songwriter. With her soulful voice and heartfelt lyrics, she captured the hearts of millions worldwide. Yet, behind her public persona, Alicia was also deeply woven into the fabric of the music industry's inner workings. Over the years, she cultivated relationships with some of the most powerful figures, none more influential than Sean P. Diddy Combs. Their connection was forged through years of collaboration, mutual respect, and countless shared moments behind the scenes of the global entertainment stage. But Alicia's role went beyond friendship and professional ties. She had become an insider, someone who saw the music business not just through the lens of fame and artistry, but through the shadowy dynamics of power and control. She was privy to the secrets that most fans never imagined existed, witnessing firsthand how success often came at a price far greater than anyone anticipated. In her testimony, Alicia painted a vivid picture of those secret gatherings hosted by P. Diddy, events so exclusive that only the elite few could gain access. Invitations to these parties were more than just tickets to a celebration. They were passports into a hidden world of influence, where the industry's fate was often decided away from the public eye. What the world saw as glamorous nights, filled with laughter and music, Alicia revealed, were often elaborate stages for high-stakes negotiations, covert deals, and silent power struggles. She described the velvet ropes that shielded these events as barriers, not just against outsiders, but against the truth itself. Truths about how careers were manipulated, alliances forged, and sometimes how rivals were quietly pushed out. Alicia recounted numerous moments where she observed the unspoken but rigid codes of loyalty and silence. At these parties, artists and executives alike knew that every word spoken, every glance exchanged, could carry consequences that echoed far beyond the room. It was an environment where ambition could be both a pathway to greatness and a trap that ensnared those who failed to navigate it carefully. She spoke candidly about the subtle but pervasive atmosphere of control that permeated these gatherings. P. Diddy, she testified, was not merely a host, but a strategist who understood the game of influence better than most. His charisma masked a steely determination to maintain power at all costs. Alicia revealed how the mogul used a mix of charm, persuasion, and intimidation to keep the delicate balance of alliances intact. Perhaps most unsettling were Alicia's revelations about the darker tactics employed behind the scenes. She described whispered warnings and veiled threats directed at those who dared question the status quo. She spoke of talented artists whose careers were abruptly stalled, not due to lack of ability, but because they had fallen out of favor. The implication was clear. Dissent or disloyalty came with a price, often paid in silence and obscurity. Despite her admiration for Diddy's vision and accomplishments, Alicia confessed to grappling with her conscience. She acknowledged the conflict between loyalty to a friend and mentor, and the growing awareness of the moral compromises that defined this hidden world. Her decision to testify was not made lightly. It came from a place of deep reflection and a desire to expose a system that thrived on secrecy and manipulation. Her testimony was more than just a recounting of events. It was a call to look beyond the surface glamour and to understand the human costs embedded in the music industry's power plays. As Alicia spoke, the courtroom was filled with a mix of awe, disbelief, and a dawning realization of just how much the industry's bright lights concealed. For many in the courtroom, her words shattered illusions. The glamorous facade of red carpets and platinum records gave way to a reality marked by shadowy negotiations, fragile loyalties, and relentless ambition. Alicia Keys, once known primarily for her music, now stood as a pivotal figure, exposing the complex and often troubling truths behind the scenes. As this part of the trial drew to a close, one thing was abundantly clear. The story Alicia began to tell was not just about P. Diddy or a series of exclusive parties. It was about the very nature of power, the fragility of trust, and the sacrifices made in the pursuit of fame. The stage was set for what would become a historic trial, one that promised to unravel the intricate web of influence woven deep within the heart of the music world. The glittering lights and pulsating beats of P. Diddy's exclusive parties masked a far more complex and calculated reality, one that Alicia Keys exposed with startling clarity. What appeared to the outside world as glamorous celebrations of success were, in fact, orchestrated arenas where power, influence, and control were the real currencies. Alicia described in vivid detail the level of secrecy that shrouded these gatherings. Invitations were never publicized. They circulated through a select, trusted network of elite insiders, music executives, influential artists, and high-profile business people. These were not mere social events but carefully curated meetings held in opulent penthouses, luxury yachts, or hidden rooms within the most exclusive clubs and resorts. Security was impenetrable. Guests were screened meticulously, with layers of protection designed to keep out anyone who wasn't in the know. Surveillance and strict confidentiality agreements ensured that the conversations and dealings inside remained hidden from the media and even most of the entertainment world itself. Inside these sanctuaries of influence, the atmosphere was charged, equal parts celebration and tension. P. Diddy played the role of the ultimate host and kingpin, commanding attention and respect. His presence alone was a signal that serious business was underway. Behind the facade of music, dance, and celebration, the real work was the forging of alliances, the negotiating of contracts, and the subtle exertion of pressure to maintain his dominance in the industry. Alicia revealed how these parties operated as the epicenter of Diddy's power. It was here that artists were courted, managers made their moves, and executives traded favors. The distribution of opportunity, record deals, endorsements, collaborations, was governed by the whims and strategies discussed in hushed tones behind closed doors. The gatherings also served as a battleground for control over narratives and careers. Alicia explained that public success was often the product of backstage deals, rather than just talent or hard work. An artist favored by Diddy's inner circle could rise rapidly, while others faced subtle but effective obstacles designed to halt their progress. But beyond the business transactions, Alicia's testimony shed light on a darker side. She spoke of moments when the ambiance turned heavy with coercion. Guests were pressured to conform to expectations, sometimes agreeing to terms that compromised their artistic freedom or personal integrity. Failure to comply often meant exclusion from future events, loss of contracts, or worse, professional blacklisting. She recounted chilling anecdotes of whispered threats, backroom warnings, and the ever-present fear of retaliation that kept many in line. Some of the most talented artists found themselves ensnared in this web of control, caught between ambition and the high cost of rebellion. The network extended far beyond music. Alicia testified about cross-industry collaborations involving fashion lines, film projects, and political lobbying, all interconnected within this hidden ecosystem. Diddy's empire was vast, with these parties acting as the central hub from which his influence radiated in countless directions. The pressure wasn't just external. Alicia spoke candidly about her personal struggle navigating this environment. Even as an acclaimed artist, she felt the suffocating weight of expectations, the need to maintain alliances, and the moral quandaries posed by the hidden dealings around her. Her decision to testify stemmed from a deep desire to bring these realities into the light and challenge a system that thrived on secrecy and manipulation. Throughout her testimony, the courtroom was enveloped in silence, the gravity of her revelations sinking in. The image of carefree celebrity nights dissolved into one of calculated power plays, silent compromises, and a ruthless struggle for control. Her words raised difficult questions about the price paid by those who dared to dream of stardom. How many had been forced to sacrifice their integrity? How ingrained were these practices within the industry's fabric? And how many more stories remained untold? As the second part of the trial concluded, the public and the court faced a sobering truth. These secret parties were far more than social gatherings. They were pivotal stages on which the fate of careers, the flow of money, and the balance of power in the music industry were decided. The stakes were high, the players powerful, and the consequences profound. For those inside, it was a world where every move mattered, and every alliance could mean survival or downfall. The power that P. Diddy wielded was unlike anything most people could imagine. As Alicia Keys described in her testimony, his influence wasn't limited to the music itself. It extended into every corner of the industry, shaping careers, controlling narratives, and managing rivalries with precision and cunning. Behind the glitz and glamour lay a complex network of manipulation and strategic moves designed to keep him at the top. Diddy's private parties were the stage for many of these power plays. It was here, in whispered conversations and shadowed corners, that deals were not just made, but dictated. Artists hoping to rise in the ranks found themselves having to negotiate terms that went far beyond recording contracts. Loyalties were bought, favors exchanged, and alliances forged with careful calculation. Alicia revealed how Diddy's ability to play the long game was key to his success. He maintained a web of relationships with executives, promoters, and even competitors, ensuring that no move in the industry went unnoticed or unchallenged. If an artist or executive stepped out of line, subtle pressures were applied, whether through media manipulation, contract delays, or withholding of promotional support. The testimony highlighted several instances where Diddy was alleged to have orchestrated rivalries or conflicts to distract or weaken opponents. By controlling the flow of information and public perception, he ensured his own dominance while keeping potential threats off balance. This was not mere business rivalry. It was strategic warfare. One former insider detailed how Diddy's influence reached into radio stations, streaming platforms, and even award committees, subtly shaping which artists got airplay, which songs climbed the charts, and who received coveted accolades. These moves were often invisible to the public but had enormous impact on careers. Alicia spoke about the consequences for those who resisted. Some artists found themselves blacklisted or pushed out after refusing to conform to Diddy's expectations or align with his network. Their projects were shelved, their public appearances minimized, and their opportunities dwindled. It was a stark warning to others about the cost of independence in such a tightly controlled industry. The power dynamic extended beyond music. Diddy's network included influential figures in fashion, film, and business, allowing him to create cross-industry leverage that few could match. This multidisciplinary influence made his empire resilient, adaptable, and extremely difficult to challenge. Yet, Alicia's testimony also revealed cracks in this seemingly impenetrable system. Whispers of dissent, secret meetings to discuss alternatives, and growing frustration among some artists and executives hinted at underlying tensions. The carefully maintained order was starting to show signs of strain. She also described the emotional toll this environment took on those within it. The constant need to navigate complex alliances, avoid pitfalls, and maintain appearances created a pressure cooker of stress and uncertainty. Even those at the top, Alicia suggested, were not immune to the costs of such relentless ambition. Alicia's account didn't just expose a man, it exposed a system, one built on control, fear, and manipulation, but also on calculated vision and relentless drive. The courtroom absorbed her words with growing realization. The music industry's brightest lights were often shadows cast by unseen forces. As Part 3 drew to a close, the story became clearer. P. Diddy's influence was a double-edged sword, fueling success, but exacting a heavy price. For many, navigating this world was a delicate balance between power and vulnerability, opportunity and risk. The revelations left a haunting question lingering in the air. How many careers, dreams, and lives had been shaped or shattered by these unseen games of influence? As Alicia Keys took the stand and continued her testimony, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically. The stark facts and calculated strategies of power gave way to a more intimate and human narrative, one filled with emotional complexity, moral dilemmas, and the painful cost of speaking truth to power. Alicia, widely admired as a musical icon and a symbol of grace, now revealed the profound personal toll that her years in the industry, and especially her relationship with P. Diddy, had exacted on her spirit. For Alicia, the decision to break the silence was not made lightly. She had spent years wrestling with conflicting loyalties to her friends, her career, and her conscience. She admitted feeling trapped in a gilded cage, where success demanded sacrifices that often left deep wounds hidden beneath the surface. The glamour and fame were intoxicating, but the shadows of manipulation and control cast long, dark shapes over everything else. She spoke candidly about the isolation she experienced. The entertainment industry, while dazzling and alluring, was also unforgiving and insular. Speaking out meant risking everything. Relationships strained or shattered, opportunities lost, and the judgment of an industry that prized discretion above all else. Alicia's courage to testify was a defiant act against this culture of silence and fear. Her testimony conveyed moments of intense inner turmoil. Alicia described nights spent questioning her choices, grappling with guilt for what she had seen but not spoken of sooner, and fear for the consequences she might face. Yet, she also shared how a growing sense of responsibility and a desire to protect others gave her the strength to stand up. The stories she recounted went beyond industry politics. They were about real people, friends and colleagues whose lives had been deeply affected by the pressures and power dynamics she unveiled. Alicia spoke of talented artists whose voices were muffled, careers derailed, and dreams deferred by forces beyond their control. Her narrative humanized the scandal, transforming it from headlines into a poignant portrait of struggle and resilience. Alicia also reflected on the complex relationship she had with P. Diddy himself. She acknowledged his brilliance and undeniable influence, but did not shy away from critiquing the darker side of his methods. The testimony revealed a nuanced picture of a man who inspired loyalty and admiration, but also demanded absolute allegiance and wielded power with ruthless precision. She called attention to the need for systemic change within the industry, a call for transparency, fairness, and respect for the artists who fuel its success. Alicia's vision was one where creativity could flourish without fear, where power was accountable, and where the next generation would not have to endure the same moral compromises. Throughout her testimony, Alicia's voice resonated with authenticity and conviction. The courtroom, filled with legal professionals, spectators, and media, was visibly moved. The judge's demeanor softened, jurors leaned forward, and even some hardened industry insiders appeared visibly affected. Her words transcended mere accusation. They were a plea for justice and healing. Yet, Alicia was acutely aware of the personal cost. She faced backlash, scrutiny, and the daunting task of navigating a path forward in a world that often punishes those who break ranks. She spoke openly about the loneliness of her journey and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. But she also expressed hope. Hope that her testimony would ignite a movement toward accountability and reform. Her decision to come forward marked a pivotal moment in the trial. It was more than a testimony against P. Diddy. It was a statement about the power of truth in the face of entrenched secrecy and control. Alicia's bravery illuminated the human dimension of an industry too often defined by its surface glitz and behind-the-scenes machinations. As Part 4 drew to a close, the courtroom was left with a profound sense of reflection. The stories of manipulation and power were now intertwined with stories of courage and resilience. Alicia Keys stood as a beacon of both, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, the light of truth can shine through. The trial was no longer just a legal battle. It had become a reckoning for the music industry itself, a call to dismantle the systems that enabled abuse and exploitation, and to build a future rooted in integrity and respect. For Alicia, the journey was far from over. But with every word spoken and every truth revealed, she had taken a powerful step toward change, not just for herself, but for countless others who deserved to be heard. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence as Alicia Keys concluded her testimony. Her voice, steady yet filled with the weight of truth, had pierced through the glossy veneer of the music industry and exposed the shadows lurking beneath. The world watched as the curtain was pulled back, revealing a complex landscape of power, control, and sacrifice few had ever seen. Across the room, P. Diddy sat with an unyielding gaze, but even his composed exterior betrayed the pressure mounting around him. The empire he had meticulously crafted, one built on influence, connections, and undeniable talent, now stood at a crossroads. The secrets long kept behind closed doors were unraveling, piece by piece, under the relentless light of scrutiny. As the trial edged toward its climax, the stakes could not have been higher. Media outlets worldwide dissected every word, every gesture, fueling debates and igniting conversations far beyond the courtroom walls. Fans and critics alike wrestled with the revelations, torn between admiration for the artists they loved and shock at the realities laid bare. But this case was about much more than a single individual. It represented a reckoning for an entire industry, one that had, for too long, prioritized power over people, image over integrity. Alicia's testimony had sparked a movement, a call for accountability and transparency that echoed through boardrooms, studios, and stages everywhere. Behind the headlines, Alicia herself faced an uncertain path. The courage to speak out had come at a cost. Fractured relationships, career risks, and the burden of stepping into a spotlight she had long tried to avoid. Yet, with every challenge, she found renewed purpose. Her truth was not just a personal revelation, but a beacon for others trapped in similar webs of influence and silence. The courtroom doors eventually closed, signaling the end of the legal proceedings, but not the story itself. The echoes of this trial would reverberate across the music world and beyond, challenging the systems that enabled abuse and demanding a new era of respect and fairness. In the quiet moments after the trial, Alicia reflected on the journey. The battles fought within those walls were a microcosm of a larger struggle, a fight for justice, dignity, and the right to be heard. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but also filled with hope. For P. Diddy, the future remained uncertain. The empire he commanded was tested as never before, its foundations shaken by the revelations. Whether he would emerge transformed or diminished was a question only time could answer. Ultimately, this was a story about more than fame or fortune. It was about the human cost behind the music, the dreams realized, the sacrifices made, and the truths unveiled. Alicia Keys had lit a fire that could no longer be ignored. And as the world watched, one undeniable fact remained. No empire, no matter how mighty or revered, is immune to the unyielding pursuit of justice.